inspiring discussions. I think one observation is that this convergence on critique seems to be so much easier than the convergence on alternatives. Like even the forum itself, it's based on resistance or being against the neoliberalism. But then what for? We don't even say that we want another world, but another world is possible. Really distant articulation of what we might have. And I think to get forward, we should really at some point to discuss and analyze this, why convergence on the alternative, on the positive agenda is so difficult. And I think there's a lot of, but it partly comes back to the culture, that the cultural diversity means cultural diversity, and then coming together from very diverse positions, or just from cultural existences is a fact that we have to recognize. And there I would link what Tord maybe said in the passing about the material conditions and what it has discussed as complicity, because much of the even the vocal environmentalists around the world, we are living in very energy intensive, very material intensive lives. So clearly then to be able to vision and to be able to commit to something very sustainable in material terms, it's a huge cultural challenge. And same way, like some key issues which hardly get discussed is the views on technology. That if we really want to have a different kind of world, then what are the technologies that can be sort of maintained, and what are something that we might need to abandon. So, for example, there my question is about Google. We are against corporations, especially American corporations, but 80% of our communication goes to the benefit of Google Inc., which is the most secretive, profit-seeking organization around. So, like, how do we overcome these also very practical things which would liberate us in material way terms, and then ultimately liberate also our understanding? But now coming back to the coming days, the one thing I'd just like to point that we had this should have a Kutumbakam very modest leaflet, but what we have done in the end, that we have collected this like about 30 events by what we call friendly organizations. So this is like one attempt that we should own the work of others as much as we own our own work, which may lead to our events having the 10 participants, but maybe our friends will have then 10 participants more. And then secondly, this whole Vasudhara Kutumbakam, I think it's one attempt on introducing this positive agenda, and so then this comprehensive elements of all dimensions of democracy and levels of engagement, and then not drawing primarily or only on the Western idiom, but looking at the Sanskrit resource in this case. So maybe the proposal now also for the remaining time, that can we sort of flag some of the events or processes where this convergence on alternatives might demand our attention, our time, and our effort, because I think, like you mentioned, your convergence process, you're part of this citizens movement thing, and we know in NIGD have some ideas about this. One session there tomorrow on the there's this idea of having a special social forum on the alternatives thematic. So these kind of things would be scanned.
Maybe I can come in at this point. Sorry, do you want to take one, or should I?
Just one. I'm including myself what I'm saying as an observation, because several people have said that we the representatives. I think most of us, I don't know all of you personally so much, but most of us that I know of, we are really not, we have not been elected or selected by the people that we claim to represent. Most of us are either self-appointed vanguards, or because of we are in some institution structure, an official NGO structure, we have come in. I think one of the areas that we need to clarify in this, when we bring this into the larger forum, that these are the people, like even many of us are claiming that we are representative. We have to understand, and then probably not only for this, for future participations in either people summits or in social forums or in any of this so-called totally open welcoming forum, we should put more emphasis on that, and there can be a very few concrete points, like at least 50% of that should also come, instead of intellectual and other vanguards, from actual communities who are resisting or who are building an alternative from that community. So that could be a one way, and we should look for who are those people, what kind of alternatives are being presented from those, because often, though I'm clearly convinced that many of the alternatives that we as vanguards are proposing have very good qualities, have possibilities of going far, but still that is still a representative kind of, we are in a sense we are talking in India and others of Swaraj, which is far advanced in a sense of decentralized democracy than participatory, not only participatory democracy, far advanced from representative democracy. But in our own kind of culture, we seem to be still following the representative democracy practices in a very limited sense. So that's one thing that we need to.
Sometimes not even that.
Not even that. I'm giving a white bar. The other thing that I think, very quickly, last point, I won't go into further, that we should to utilize the next 3, 4, 5 days, 4 days I think, we should be probably going out to not only to our own events, like Marko has done this compilation, and try to see what are the real alternatives, groups, people's resistances, alternative building processes are doing. Like these are well documented, but there might be many others which are not so well documented and well known. So do one of that, and second, if we have some of these ideas, try to just spread them. And I am very clear, I am not looking for concrete solutions and implementation plans from a WSF or any of this. This is not the space for coming out into a concrete solution, but trying to understand from a wide spectrum and trying to infuse, not refusing to believe that what you believe in passionately should also be thrown out in the open. That's also a very important process. So I think these two counter processes, not counter, these two parallel processes should be tried in the next 3, 4 days, apart from what we have already identified in terms of concrete self-organized events. That we'll have to do in any case. But even there, I think we should do this two more, rather than giving a presentation on one thing only and then in the sort of formal format.
I think, thank you, Soumya, because you pointed out very specifically about the alternatives. So I think my co-chair Ashish should also introduce about the Vikalp Sangam, the confluence of alternatives. It is very interesting. He will tell us about the principles. Also, I also want to emphasize on the principles and the process involved in that. And after that, I also want Asim Bhai to speak about, because it is a transitional phase. Many people are criticizing that the last forum. I'm not defending anything, but I want to make clear that even people are not coming to our spaces, but we came from outside. Our presence is also significant, and in the last forum also, we all are part of a historical process. We contributed in this country to the people of this country how to change their regime without bloodshed, with the help of ballot. They learned. This help was given by the World Social Forum, those who came for World Social Forum. So we should not forget that. This is very important thing.
So yeah, just quickly I wanted to, I think following on from two comments, Marko and Soumya. One was that it's easier to have convergence of resistance and such movements rather than alternatives. And the point that communities themselves are often not present at these sorts of meetings. So one process that we've started in India, and I think it will be nice to hear if there are similar processes happening elsewhere, to see if we can network more globally, is what we call the alternatives confluences. they're not conferences, they're confluences, because in India the idea of a confluence of rivers is always a sacred space, right? So actually creating platforms where people who are working either practically or conceptually or both on what is an alternative society, what are different ways of doing things that are more sustainable, equitable, just, and so on, can come together and share and celebrate and learn from each other, constructively critique each other, build the practical experiences of how to change things on the ground. Very much Omji, your point about making it very real life and so on. And but also from that, how to collectively evolve a different frameworks or different paradigms of what society could look like, which is grounded in the real practical work that they're doing, but also of course linking to alternative theories and ideologies and so on. So that process has just started about a year or two back, and what we're doing is these are regional level confluences across the country. We just had 2 so far, and many more are coming up over the next couple of years, where civil society, communities, indigenous people, thinkers, researchers, students, activists, people working on across, and this is just not environment, it's across all sectors, people working on alternative or minority sexualities, people working on disability, identity issues, cultural issues, get together. And I think the crucial idea here is what tends to happen is that within our own sectors we do get together. People working on sustainable agriculture do have forums where they meet. People working on gender justice do meet, climate justice do meet. But cutting across these sectors and learning from each other is actually, at least in the Indian context, it doesn't happen nearly as much as it should be happening. What this is based on is, of course, some very central principles. Because this is one big question that arises, of course, is what's an alternative? If somebody is doing recycling, is that an alternative? There's a lot of greenwashing that is happening these days. Corporations are all into trying to say that they're ecologically conscious, etc. You just put the word eco in front of anything and it becomes suddenly ecologically sensitive, right? So how does one actually even judge what are the partnerships, what are the collaborations that we're looking for where truly these are fundamental alternatives? Is a question that's always difficult to understand, and that's why actually trying to develop a common conceptual framework of politically, economically, socially, culturally, ecologically, how are these different from the current system? And that is something it's a churning that's happening, and it would actually be very interesting to know what's happening, similar kind of stuff, processes that are happening elsewhere. So one of the reasons why some of us are here at the World Social Forum is to actually even explore similar experiences elsewhere and see how we can build